You know who's not bad? The Detroit Lions. The damn Detroit Lions. No, they're not.
Biting some
dominant.
How about that, huh? Getting it done. Thankfully, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went for 2. For those of you that had the Detroit Lions -6 or 6.5, depending on where you shopped it at. But nonetheless, the Detroit Lions are getting it done.
Wait, what?
And
why would that have mattered?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you had Detroit 6.5, you felt good about the Lions missing that 2-point conversion because of they lost by 8. So the Bucs missed the 2-point conversion. That would have put the lead at 6.
Yeah, it would have put them. I mean, we don't know how it would have played out, though.
Well, I'm just saying. Yeah. Like, listen, retroactively, we look back and go, all right, that makes some sense. All right. Okay. So just but the point is, Dan Campbell and the Lions have gotten it done. He was mocked. He was laughed at. Everybody assumed this was just going to be one of these. All right, give him a year, give him 2 years, and then he's out the door.
I knew the weather conditions were going to play a part in them winning that game.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah. You and Todd Bowles.
Was that the take you're talking about?
Y'all can laugh at that lady all y'all want now. I bet you ain't laughing now. Them cats couldn't breathe. They got up off of that bus, and that 20 seconds of getting in from the bus to where they were going to get dressed, it impacted them.
Yeah, big time. Now, Dan Campbell did speak afterwards, and look, he felt like it was the need to point out some clear differences between the blue-collar mentality in Detroit and maybe some of the other places around the country you wouldn't find that.
Well, I think it's important, right? You can't – I don't know if it's – it's not the first thing you think of if you go to L.A. or just in general, right? You got the sun, you got the beach, you got plenty of other things going on. And here, man, it's harsh winters, right? Auto industry, blue collar, things aren't always easy. And I just think that's, that's what we're about. And that was – you want something the city can be proud of. Though you can look at those guys and say, man, I can back that guy. I can back that team. I can resonate with those group of guys. They're kind of salty. They don't quit. They play hard. And so I feel like we've done that. And I think these guys, they have a kinship with this city and this area, and they love it, man.
So the Detroit Lions are back in a conference championship game. First time since 1992 that Detroit has gotten this far, but pretty impressive considering, look, it's been 3 years since he's taken over, but just to see where they're at and just the steady growth, because there was expectations that they were going to be much improved this year with the way they finished out last year, but I don't know if there was a lot of people who thought, hey, Detroit's going to be in a conference championship game, and it is interesting that the two teams that opened up the season on that Thursday night find themselves in the Final Four of the NFL.
San Fran might be in trouble, man.
You think so?
They might be. I mean, they go ahead, Q, but I'm just saying they might be in trouble, though.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what the playing conditions look like, if that plays a factor. And I'll just generally say this. This is what every organization should be looking for. When they're looking for a head coach right now, and there's obviously a number of vacancies that are still open, Dan Campbell's a leader of men, and that includes his coaching staff as well as the players in that team. The team all embody or all have some portion of grit, toughness that they're looking for. Brad Holmes, who's their general manager, the rest of their front office, all the folks involved with that group, they've found a group of players that I think embody what Detroit represents, the toughness and a lot of things Dan Campbell kind of hit on. Like, this is a team that I think resonates with their city. It's not like a bunch of guys who, they don't feel like they can relate to. Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown, to me, I remember when he was coming out, and I had an opportunity to do a number of his games. And I think, there's the thing of him being able to list off all the receivers who's drafted before him and all that. I remember watching him thinking, like, he was the closest thing that reminded me of Steve Smith. And I was like, this kid's going to – I'm sorry, say that again?
I said, that's a good pool.
Well, and I said it back then because of the way he played the game. And he just had – I mean, obviously there was a he was a great route runner. He was a tough blocker. He'd go up and get those 50-50 balls. Like, whatever it was during his time with Southern Cal, he stepped up and he made plays. But you always felt like he played with this sort of tenacity, this type of grit, where if it came down to it, he was going to make the play to win the game. he was going to make the play for his teammates. And, seeing him transition to the Detroit Lions and doing what he's doing in the NFL isn't surprising at all. But he's one of many examples on that roster who embody what they are as a team. And, watching that game yesterday, I kind of thought to myself, all right, every one of these games, if you look at a bell curve, right, and you're saying, all right, 10 times these teams play, how's it gonna work out? Maybe Tampa blows them out once, maybe Detroit blows them out a couple times, and you have the 7 other games you're looking at. How do you divide those 7 games up? And I thought it was going to be a lot closer than it was. I mean, we can look at the 2-point conversion and all that, but it felt like Detroit kind of had a stronghold on that game. And they would probably beat them 4 to 5 times of those other 7 games they play if they were to play again. And that, just watching this Detroit team over the past few years, they've built themselves up where I think you can alleviate, you could say this now safely, because there were some concerns, I think, of what happens if they come out and flop in the divisional round after all the emotion, everything beating the LA Rams in the wild card round, the whole Matt Stafford, Jared Goff narrative, everything around that. What happens if they come out flat and they come out and flop, like a poll of Detroit Lions? That narrative is gone. It's dead. And it has everything to do with Dan Campbell, this staff, this front office, this roster, and the way they have literally over the span of 3 years changed the dynamic and changed the way you look at them and how they play. That's a credit to everyone involved who've anointed them and given them that opportunity to do it. But it's awesome to see, because if Detroit can do this, I think you're going to see other NFL franchises be able to do it. But you got to find the right people and pieces. And I think of a team like the Carolina Panthers. It's one of the first that comes to mind. And that's what they should be looking for right now in a head coach. And it's not going to be pretty year 1, but it's going to get better year 2. And by year 3, maybe you're able to do something similar to this.
I looked at the way they won this game, and I feel like it's been their formula all year long, is play hard-nosed defense, run the ball, and in between running the ball, make some good plays in the passing game, and protect the ball. Goff didn't throw any interceptions. They didn't lose any fumbles, and they controlled the time of possession in this game. I look at Dan Campbell's formula in terms of how he approaches the game. The one question I did come away with wondering is, why did they take so long to put Jahmyr Gibbs into the mix the way that they did? I mean, was it more so to kind of soften the belly, so to speak? I thought it was interesting that it took a little bit for them to put him into the game and get him going. But, I mean, he's a difference maker, man. He makes a difference. He can give you those explosive plays. I like the change-up element that he brings to that offense, but just looking at this Lions team as a total whole and what Dan Campbell has preached, that this is what this team is going to become. I mean, they've become an extension of their coach. They play hard. They get after it, and they got some stars on this team. Like Hutchinson is a star, bona fide star.
Yeah.
They just, they play football, and that's I mean, I think this is the day and age where you got to really, really take long, hard looks at, coaching styles and what they're bringing to the table and how that resonates or doesn't resonate with not only the coaching or with your players, but how it resonates with the city that you're in as well. I mean, this dude has endeared himself. He's made his players more endearing to this city, and this city has totally embraced them. And again, like I said at the beginning of the segment, that is a recipe of danger for San Francisco. If you can run the ball successfully against San Fran, which you possibly can run the ball successfully against the Niners, I don't know what Deebo Samuel's, I don't know what his deal is going to be moving forward. But if you don't have Samuels in that game, if you're not full health going into that game. San Fran could find themselves in a bit of trouble in this game, man. I wouldn't be surprised if the way these guys play defense, run the ball, and find a way, Jared Goff finds a way to do some really, really special things. I could see Detroit making it to the Super Bowl and actually surprising people and sending the Niners home.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one to watch next weekend.